have our dearest guests here today. And I would like to start with Mr. Vladimir Shucha, the head of the European Commission representation in Bratislava. And I would like now to introduce you to our keynote speaker, Olivia Kurbanova.
We have to strike the right balance between bolstering confidence and cultivating intellectual humility and positive skepticism. So we try to give every student's perspective a value, so every student is being heard. The other way how we can do it is by modeling the right behavior. So for example, me as an educator, I can demonstrate a confidence in the area of my expertise, but at the same time, I can express or demonstrate intellectual humility, but by admitting that I do not have all the answers. So entering every possible interaction with this mindset that I can be wrong. So entertaining the possibility that maybe what I think is right could be proven wrong, and I'm open to it. Everything should be supported with evidence. So if I have evidence for my claims, so then the better evidence wins.
Well, we have the pleasure to have the winners with us today, so it is my pleasure to call on stage Anne Yvonne, Maria Lorenza, Matilde and Mercedes. Could you come on stage? Well, I would like now to call on stage the protagonists of these innovative projects, and we have here today Natalia, Justina and Monica. And the winners are also here today with us. Jean-Noël and Tatiana, please come on stage. Cornelia, on you.
For me, when I look at the competencies, key competencies, by European Commission, for me number one is personal, social and learning to learn competence, because that is like the first step for us then to be open to others, maybe to recognize emotions in others, to be able to collaborate, communicate, empathize with them. But I would say that all this is connected by one important skill, and it's curiosity. So, because when we are curious about ourselves, then we develop self-awareness and self-regulation. I would suggest to give opportunity to students to experience project-based learning every year, because then they are connected to life. They can collaborate, communicate, they have autonomy. The biggest advice is be a lazy teacher. So let students do what they can, and so that not you as a teacher come home tired, but students, because they were exposed to active learning.
I would like to thank every eTwinner and every National Support Organization member that was here present in this event. The success of this event shows that the eTwinning community continues growing stronger and stronger.
Dear eTwinners, dear participants, dear viewers of this live stream, welcome to the eTwinning Annual Conference 2023, My name is Christos Boussoulas, and this year I'm not alone.
Exactly, Christos. This year you won't be alone. My name is Marta Giuliani, and we are the hosts for the first part of tonight's event.
During this live streaming, communicate with us via the chat on YouTube
And by using the following hashtags: ETW for Innovation and ETWConf23.
2023 is a year dedicated to innovation and education. And of course, all of us know by now what education is and what it entails and how eTwinning contributes to it. But what about innovation, Marta?
Christos, I will tell you more about it. So, innovation is the practical implementation of new ideas that result in the introduction of new goods, methodologies, and technology in education, with the aim to improve it and make it more accessible and effective.
So would you say that innovation actually deals mostly with technology?
No, Christos, this is a misconception that we really tried this year to set right. But where have you been? Technology should not be perceived as an end in itself, but as a means that help teachers achieve the level of innovation they wish in their classrooms.
Right, yes, Marta. And actually, eTwinning has been promoting innovative teaching practices since 2005 by highlighting not only the importance of the use of ICT in the teaching and learning process, but also the use of pedagogical methodologies. The adversities of this year, admittedly, have been quite troubling for not just our dear eTwinners, but also for us, Marta. But innovation is our flag. And we, as you, we did not give up and really tried to keep up the spirit of this community alive and bright.
Exactly, the community is vibrant, and despite all the challenges this year, eTwinners have shown a great enthusiasm. It was also a special year to be able to meet again in person, as happened at the on-site course in Lisbon with the ambassadors, or at the prize ceremonies held in Bratislava, or the one that will be held in Seville, and make sure to follow the live streaming. Also, many activities took place online. Just to name a few, we had the spring campaign, we celebrated eTwinning Day, we had the eTwinning School Conference, and the eTwinning Weeks, which is ending right now. Also, make sure to follow the ITE conference at the end of November. All of these activities revolve around the annual theme of innovation and education.
And that proves that eTwinners are pioneers in innovative thinking and experimenting with pedagogical methodologies, either they are old or new.
And ICT tools, of course. And today, we are here to celebrate their unique perspective on education.
And that is why this evening, Marta, we have prepared for our viewers an exciting event during which they will receive a warm welcome from Iliana Ivanova, European Commissioner for Innovation, Research, Culture, Education and Youth.
One more warm welcome from the national support organizations and the support partners of eTwinning. A very informative keynote speech by Dr. Georgi Dimitrov, Head of Unit Digital Education at the European Commission.
And a second keynote address by Stéphane Vincent-Lacran, Senior Analyst at the OECD.
And after the keynote address, you will be kindly dismissed for 20 minutes to take some fresh air and come back for the second part of this first day of the eTwinning Conference 2023, presented by our colleagues Irini Pateraki and Alexandra Albanido.
So, Marta, I think it's time to start with a video message, right?
Exactly, Christos. It's time now to officially open this conference with our commissioner, Iliana Ivanova, European Commissioner for Innovation, Research, Culture, Education and Youth.
Listeners, it is my pleasure to address you today at your annual conference. The eTwinning community is as remarkable as it is relentlessly committed to its mission, not just passing on knowledge and facts, but developing a common spirit for learning together in a community connected across Europe. All of you, teachers, students, school leaders, educators, policymakers, and of course, our learners work together, turning distance into dialogue and curiosity into creativity. This community is truly thriving you bring together over 160,000 active users from 44 different countries on the eTwinning platform. Your classrooms put together over 7,200 projects this year alone. This, for me, is a clear confirmation of your keen interest to promote richer, more innovative learning experience for your pupils. Which brings us to this year's theme, education and innovation, and how to be creative with eTwinning. As I looked at the eTwinning book 2023, I was deeply impressed by your work, from the innovative impulse to change the way the classroom functions. First, so many of you have found new ways of integrating technology in the classroom, helping to transform the learning process. Some of you used smartphones with pedagogical apps. Some explored robotics. A classroom in Croatia even printed 3D designs of their own. You managed to broaden the realm of the possible. Each new tool your pupils use feeds into the development of other skills. You're developing new ways of thinking, solving problems, working together. Second, you applied these new tools and leveraged them into novel pedagogical approaches. It takes courage to involve your pupils in the preparation of lesson plans and then support them as they take on the new role of teaching each other. That was precisely what Emeze, a teacher in Romania, did. She helped her students take a peek behind the curtain, understanding teaching and learning in a different way. These and other practices, like making use of gamification and game-based learning, collaborative reading, or exploring other media, have a huge impact. The examples of this year's book attest to that, in both individual learners and in the education community as a whole. Third, through these projects, you keep focus on what is important, a classroom that reaches out into society. Our communities, be it in school or outside of it, are deeply connected in their countries, but also across Europe. They are connected through the eTwinning platform, connected through technology. Most importantly, they're connected through the promotion of our common values. Various projects helping learners with special needs and different abilities reflect these interconnections and the social responsibility to work with each other. These experiences and helping each other have created a direct link with next year's theme, namely well-being at school. Next year, the eTwinning community will focus on pressing challenges related to mental health and well-being in our learning environments. This will closely connect to our own efforts at EU level, where we have an expert group working on guidelines for our European school systems. Next spring, outcomes of their work will add to your own experiences. Together, the eTwinning community will continue to enrich teaching and learning across the EU. I hope your exchanges will be filled with inspiration, listening to distinguished speakers, attending various workshops, and talking to each other. I wish you a very fruitful conference, full of recognition for your amazing work.
It was a great honor to have the Commissioner opening the conference with this message and address all the eTwinners. Right, Christos?
Yes, Marta, indeed. It was really a great honor. And after, let's continue then. We have two more videos to show to you. One is about the national support organizations of eTwinning. For those who don't know, among the many things that the national support organizations of eTwinning do, well, really, the list is really long to exhaust it in this little speech, but they are those to whom you turn to when you need support, and they are the ones who organize eTwinning national events, they give national quality labels, they have the national prizes, and really many more actions. And today they have actually created a very beautiful video, I would say, relating, of course, to innovation and education. So I would like to invite you to watch it together with us.
Innovation
transforms education
into an adventure.
Inclusive learning opportunities. Fresh educational landscape. Well-being. Immersive extended reality experiences.
It's important to have the finger on the pulse of education and to quickly integrate new learning methods in the curriculum.
Nurturing innovative creativity to fuel transformative solutions to real-life challenges.
It's the art of the education where we allow our imagination to flourish.
New ideas and new practices spreading from teacher to teacher, from classroom to classroom, and having a real impact on how thousands of teachers and pupils learn and work together.
It is about making creative changes to improve learning and teaching.
Represent the dynamic synergy between creative problem solving and lifelong learning in an ever-changing world.
New way of teaching through virtual education,
which leads to real life skills.
An authentic, physically active, relevant and meaningful school day for all children and young people in Europe every day.
Is finding ways to improve the learning experience of pupils.
The talent of a future for young generations who are currently part of the innovative ecosystems that promote creativity.
Education fueled by innovation paves the way for students to thrive in a rapidly evolving world. Embracing new ideas and technologies can greatly enrich their teaching experience.
It's also about being creative, solving problems, thinking critically, and working together with others. Together we create a vibrant and connected learning experience.
Making learning exciting and effective through new ideas and methods, like using technology.
Creative teaching fuels the best education.
Without education, there is no innovation. eTwinning makes innovation accessible to all.
Ideas nourished by novelty and open mind.
Visions achieved through inquisitiveness.
Original notions.
Innovative approaches and tools in education provide students with up-to-date and effective learning experiences in the eTwinning program.
Innovation in education is
collaboration in Europe.
Being creative and supporting our teachers to make space for creativity and for collaboration.
Is a better life creation.
Working closely.
Create new ideas.
And empower learning.
eTwinning.
A synonym for innovation and education would be eTwinning and asset platform.
Sailing along current developments in society and having suitable tools on board.
To make sure that students know the ropes and are equipped with a good mindset to tackle their journey into the future.
Innovation and creativity are key elements for a quality education leading to school success. For happy teachers and happy students, make it different, be creative, innovate.
Is taking things that already exist and assembling them in ways that haven't been thought of.
Innovation makes people happy.
Means eTwinning in every school, right?
It motivates students to explore the unknown
and prepare them for the challenges of the future.
Open the door to great and more interesting learning experiences, making them more engaging, flexible and customized by self-organized learning environments. Collaboration and inquiry. Creativity and critical thinking. Expanding learning environments outdoors.
Make education more efficient and easier for students to learn.
Taking learning outdoors.
Combining theory
and practice.
Getting back to nature.
Sensibilization of future generations for a wise, meaningful and adequate use of technology in their everyday life and education process.
Innovation in education
means exploring new paths of learning.
Innovation in education leads to smart solutions.
Embrace motivation, democracy, well-being, inclusion, happiness, friendship, and perspectives in the classroom.
And many thanks to the National Support Organization of eTwinning. It was really nice to have them sharing their idea of innovation, right,
It was
Christos?
absolutely very cute.
But now we have one more video to show to you, and it's about the supportive partners of the European School Education Platform. Supportive partners are our friends. They are organizations, initiatives that share the same values and objectives of the European School Education Platform. The collaboration between eTwinning and its supportive partners aims to share their expertise through online seminars, workshops, and disseminating high-quality materials. But let's get to know them.
We love our supportive partners, and we actually want to make this video longer, and we want more supportive partners. And we encourage you, if you're an organization who wants to collaborate with eTwinning and the European School Education Platform, to go on the About page of the website and actually fill in the application form. And Marta, I think we are quite excited for the first actually keynote address.
Exactly, Christos. It's time for the first keynote of the day, and I'm delighted to present Dr. Georgi Dimitrov, Head of Unit Digital Education at the European Commission. Dr. Dimitrov, thank you very much for being with us today. I think you have prepared a few words for us.
Thank you, Marta. Thank you, Christos. Thank you all for the invitation to be with you here, and hello to the amazing eTwinning community first and foremost. I will start with the obvious. Since I'm dealing with digital education, I will just state the very obvious, and it is that the digital transformation is in full swing and unfolding sort of right in front of our eyes. Just think about last eTwinning conference, 2022, October. Had anybody heard about generative AI? I'm not so sure. Maybe there are some specialists and people who are right at the cutting edge. But in reality, what has happened in 12 years is that now, in 12 months, of course, is that now this topic is discussed in thousands of schools, in many authorities, ministries, Now, this is some speed. However, those of us, and I think I can say all of us, because all of us here deal with education, we know all too well that speed is not something with which you can achieve a lot alone in education, and it can get you just as far. And I think it can, in fact, get you nowhere if you don't have the key partners to rely on, which can take you into the next innovation, which is the theme of the eTwinning conference, of course. So without the key partners, you probably will not get too far. And that's still probably stating the obvious. But I want to say also something else, that yes, the key partners in any successful transformation of education and training, and this includes the digital one, are in fact the teachers. And for the long-term transformation of education and training, we need really a strange mix of skills or of ingredients. On the one side, the ability to move faster than before and to embrace innovation. And on the other side, of course, we need the full support of the partners and the stakeholders, without which nothing else can really move forward. Now, all of this is not at all an easy task in education because, as we know, things tend to move a little bit gradually and also at many different levels. The school, the municipality, the city maybe, or the village. Then you have, in some places, the region, you have the country, and then again, we have the EU, which supports some of this. Here, I can speak only about the EU, and I can tell you that at our level, we have set our ambitions for the digital transformation in education and training very clearly in the Digital Education Action Plan. And we have also set some measures with which we contribute to our common objectives when it comes to the field of digital education or digital skills at the EU level. And we do have some objectives, such as, for example, that we want not less than 80% of all adults to have basic digital skills by 2030. Today, 7 years away from this date, we are at 54%, and the growth rate is something like 1% per year. Now, you don't need to be a mathematician to realize that the pace that we have will not be sufficient in order to reach our own targets. So in fact, it is quite important to think about how to either move faster or do things differently, or better, both. Earlier this year, on our side, again, I'm speaking about the EU level, because that's what I know best, the Commission has presented 2 proposals for Council recommendations with which we would like to support the digital transformation of education and training. On the one side, we have proposed some measures to strengthen the digital education ecosystem, meaning infrastructure, connectivity, equipment, content, tools, but also capacity and competences for all teachers. And very importantly, in this context, is to increase the ownership of the member states, their responsibility for the digital transformation of education and training, and also to better cooperate at EU level. This is the first proposal. The second proposal deals with the digital skills and competences and the need to continue to evolve. And here we have put forward some recommendations which amount to essentially starting early by providing digital access in an integrated way at all levels of education and training, even starting from early childhood through some unplugged activities. So we're not talking about screens or anything like this, all the way through primary, secondary, vet, higher education, and then establishing incremental objectives and targeted interventions. Here, we have also addressed the need to develop digital skills and competences in a more foundational way, namely through a solid scientific-based method, such as through the science of informatics. We are currently negotiating the 2 proposals in the Council. So for understandable reasons, I cannot say what the end result will be. I only know that it will be known in a few weeks from now, by the end of November. And once this is the case, we are going to announce a few, as I believe, very exciting measures, which will be relevant also for the eTwinning community. But if I come back to the initial point on artificial intelligence, how fast it came in the last 12 months, since, for example, the last eTwinning conference in October, we need to recognize its very rapid development and the fact that breakthroughs in AI research have led to the development of some very powerful systems. And those systems, of course, are applicable in industry and probably also in manufacturing and some other places, but gradually they make their way into digital education. Think about language learning and apps that are used for. There are virtually, in fact, factually, tens of millions of people doing this more and more, and with, if we trust the evidence that we see, some quite formidable results. And this is just one application of adaptive technology and artificial intelligence. What this tells us more importantly, however, is that artificial intelligence is a technology which has an extremely fast uptake in terms of society. And after all, even in the education and training community, we can already see that there are some teachers who use generative AI, for example, to generate lesson plans. Some even speak about the ability to tailor the learning material to the students' proficiency levels, maybe to detect dyslexia in students or to evaluate student performances. And as any use of technology, however, also AI in education should serve specific purposes such as enhancing the teaching practice and, of course, providing better learning experience for the student. Here, however, to an extent perhaps never seen before in the history of technology, artificial intelligence is also raising some broader questions, some broader educational questions, such as the role of creativity, the fundamental value of critical thinking, and detecting what a machine has produced from what a human might have produced, and more generally, the man and machine or the human-machine interaction. Of course, I don't have any answers to these questions, but I want to raise them nevertheless, because we believe that they are very important going forward. And in fact, we have already started to do some work on AI in education and training. Last October, in fact, just during more or less the time when the eTwinning community was meeting, the Commission has published the ethical guidelines on the use of artificial intelligence and data in education and training. These guidelines aim to support educators and teachers, to inform them about the contribution of AI systems in educational settings, to clarify misconceptions, to offer practical advice on how to integrate AI and data in school education. They do present some examples as well, and discuss, for example, emerging competences that may be needed in the classroom and beyond that in order to deal with AI in education and training. Very concretely, I can tell you that in the guidelines, we also have examples for the use of dialogue-based systems, such as the very famous example of the ChatGPT tool. Quite unfortunately, perhaps, we have published the guidelines 1 month before the emergence of the ChatGPT tool, which in terms of publicity was not such a great move, but how would we know that it would move so fast? In any case, it has helped the take-up quite a lot. And so I can only invite you to consult them. They are available in all the EU languages and soon in some additional languages as well. But of course, these guidelines are just a start and just a tool in a very fast-moving complex. And it is already very clear 1 year after we have published them that there are some questions that we need to go into, and these questions are really important ones. I will start with perhaps the one which is on everybody's on everybody's mind. What is in fact the role of the teacher next to the AI tool? How can AI help in the creation of digital education content which corresponds to specific standards? We know that it can create content, but how can we see that it can do so with specific standards in mind? What is the impact of AI on children's well-being, mental health? And of course, a little bit more practically, what is the possible implications of upcoming legislation such as the AI Act on the schools? And you probably all have some experience with applying GDPR. Well, we would like to learn from some of these experiences and see how we can prepare better for the impact of AI on education and training. So I want to say that the impact of AI is, in the end of the day, going to depend on many, many different factors, but mostly how educators and policymakers integrate it into the educational systems. And there are two fundamental issues. One is how they do this in an ethical way, and the second one is how they ensure access. Because unfortunately, the side effect of some technological development can be that it can be very beneficial for a very few, while cutting even more people out. We have to absolutely make sure that this scenario is avoided. And it is very, very important to strike a balance between the benefits of the AI technologies and preserving the core values of the human interaction. Obviously, we all need to be very engaged and more than today. And I think that from our point of view and perspective in the European Commission, we are certainly ready to do so. Finally, let me be a little bit more concrete now and mention a very specific example, which I think might be useful to exemplify some of what I have been speaking about. I want to mention the Digital Education Hub, which is an initiative which has been launched 2 years ago, which some of you may know. It is a community of practice that brings together stakeholders from research, education and training, from private sector, but also from public authorities, and in fact from the different levels of education, starting from early childhood, primary and secondary. So it is a cross-cutting initiative. And the hub brings together people who are working in all aspects of digital education. Within the hub, the members can collaborate on interesting topics. They can exchange best practices and develop solutions. And in fact, it provides a sort of a space where people with different perspectives meet and can facilitate a dialogue between these three different domains: policy, research, and practice. I am mentioning the Digital Education Hub today because I know that the eTwinning community is one of doers and of people who like to go and do things rather than just talk about them. And in fact, that is the reason why the Digital Education Hub was mentioned. And I'm also mentioning the hub because AI in education was one of the key themes of 2023. There are a couple of really interesting papers, quite concrete examples, which have been published. So what you can actually do, if you're interested, you can just Google Digital Education Hub, follow up the links in order to see where you can join the community and hopefully meet somebody that you might be interested in exchanging with. With this, I would like to thank you for your attention. I wish you a great time. I wish you a very productive discussion and exchange, and of course, a lot of inspiration for this great topic of the day. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Dimitrov, for this very informative keynote and for providing our teachers with this important information on how to deal with artificial intelligence in the present and in the future. Thank you very much for being with us today. So, as Dr. Dimitrov said, the impact of artificial intelligence is yet to be seen. In this context, eTwinning will certainly foster collaborations that leverage artificial intelligence for educational improvements, all while upholding principles of equity and ethics. But Christos, it's now time to move on, right?
Yes, indeed. Now we have our second keynote address for tonight, delivered by Stéphane Vincent Lacran. Stéphane Vincent Lacran, he is an international leader when it comes to education, innovation and research, digitalization and higher education. We are particularly delighted to present him because he carries on his back 20 years of work of policy advice on innovation, policy research, and evidence-based practices in education and higher education in an international, diverse context. So let's listen what he has prepared for us.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for the invitation. It's really my pleasure. I've been a great admirer of eTwinning for a very long time. And so it's really my pleasure today to talk about innovation in education and try to relate to what you are actually doing all the time. So let me start by showing some ideas. What I would like to talk about is how we can go from this big idea of innovation to something which is a bit more practical. And for that, I'm going to talk about different types of work that we've been doing. So first start with the definition, this big idea, what are we talking about? Talk a little bit about the work we have been doing on measuring innovation, and then really try to focus on one specific project and perhaps give you two different examples of that, one related to technology, but one which is about creativity and critical thinking and a big innovation project that we have been carrying out at the OECD. And then I'll finish with a few remarks. So first, we know what really is innovation about and why do we care about that. I believe it's very important to have think about how innovation can be beneficial to education and think of how we can actually develop an innovation-friendly ecosystem. So it's not about innovation for the sake of innovation, but it's innovation for the sake of improvement. And for that, we need actually to think of how it relates to research, to measurement, so that we know actually what is changing, what is not changing too, what is staying stable, and what are the effects of all these different things. So for that, we need to measure, like we do for many other areas of education, because what we want to know is whether innovation has been good or bad, or if we're in the process of innovating, because that's a process, where we stand, in terms of these different things. So second question we have, because we often do a lot of innovation projects, is how we can actually manage to scale some of these practices or to spread the culture of innovation. And of course, try to think about how innovation policies should look like in education. As you know, there are a lot of innovation policies in other sectors, but usually that's not always one of the key aspects of the education practice. And for that, the way we think about innovation is about all the different levels. So as we can see on the left-hand side of the slide, we have technology, but in fact, innovation is not just about technology, it's a lot about many other things. It's about investment in research and development. It's about the school organization and how learning flows across a school. And it's also about the alignment with the system. And I think the big difficulty is to have all these different elements right, so that we can actually make progress. One first aspect is, research. One of the things that usually innovation policymakers do is very much measure and invest in research and development, because in fact, in many sectors, the investment in research and development is one of the best predictors of innovation and of positive innovation. And you can see if you compare, the health and the education sector, you can see that, on average, an OECD country spends much more on health than it spends on education. But nonetheless, if you look at the share public budget that is provided for research in education and for research in health, you can see that there is a strong imbalance. It is possible that it is because education requires less money than health, but of course we don't know because we don't have the money to see what difference it could make to have it. So what are we talking about when we talk about education innovation. So it's something that we've tried to develop through a series of publications and work at the Center for Educational Research and Innovation of the OECD. And for that, we really build on the Oslo manual, which is the manual that helps to collect statistics on innovation. And basically, the definition of innovation is basically that it's the introduction of a new or significantly changed product or process, and basically with the intention to improve something, so to improve the product, the process, the market, the funding. So it's a definition that works across all different sectors. What is very important is that, well, usually speaking, in education, we're talking more about process innovation than product innovation. Even so, there can be product innovation if you're, for example, an education publisher. But something which is very important to keep in mind is that innovation can be new to the organization, but it can also be new to the sector or new to the world. We tend to think about innovation as something which is radical, disruptive, and so that everything is kind of new to the world. This is actually not the case. Most of the innovation is either new to the sector, imported from other parts of the society or the economy, or to the organization or the institution that adopts it. Radical innovation represents less than 5%. It happens once in a while, but this is not the main mode of innovation. And so one way to measure it for us is basically, to say that, the adaptation is basically when we've tried to measure it the last time in 2019, was actually that it's a significant change in actually the students' exposure to selected key education practices. So we're talking here about process innovation, so what is happening and what students are exposed to, rather than product innovation. So basically, which would be a new tool, educational tool that would be developed, etc. And for that, we used very good, strong, robust statistics from PISA, TIMSS, and peers databases. So basically, just to give you an idea of how we could do it, is to think of all the different practices that we have in education. So one of the things that many countries have tried to develop in science is, more hands-on science, and actually having a bit less theoretical science and having the students do a bit more of engaged work in terms of describing, for example, natural phenomena in science lessons. And here you can see that this has been actually one where a lot of innovation has happened, and the figures are a bit old, but it's just for the to make you think about what it means actually, what innovation means. So here you can see that in that practice between 2007 and 2015, you had actually 26 more students out of 100 that frequently or very frequently started to observe and describe natural phenomena in science. So that's not bad. And you can see that, in fact, from 2007 to 2015, it went up from 30% of the students to 55% on average. So that's actually one of the big changes that you can see. It is nonetheless a practice which was relatively uncommon in some OECD countries, while in others, like Italy or Slovenia, so I'm talking the European countries, sorry, it was actually something which was much more common. But what we try to measure is really the change. And so you can see that in some countries like UK, it went up from 23% to 61% between 2007 and 2005, or Hungary from 14% to 55%. And so actually that's really a significant change that happened, and a really big change in the practice to which students are exposed to in terms of science education. Now, if we look at another one, which is actually having teachers talk to other colleagues and observe a classroom to try to observe. As you know, this is a practice which is pretty common in some countries, like Japan with lesson studies, for example, or Korea to some extent. And you can see that, it's something which is much less frequent. It's only 18% of students who in 2015 had this kind of teachers. but it has actually increased a lot. And you can see that in many of the European countries, Norway, Sweden, Italy, Slovenia, this is relatively much less than the OECD average. And you have a few countries which are around OECD average, Lithuania and Hungary here, EU countries, sorry, I'm saying OECD. And then you have also England, where it is a bit more. And here you can see that, in the case of England, there was this really big change, because in less than a decade, it went from 5% of students exposed to that, having teachers doing that, to 25%. So there was really something happening there. Same in Hungary, from 1 to 90%, and 3 to 19% in Lithuania. And you can see that even so, it hasn't increased in most of the other countries, apart from Norway. On the, it remains a relatively minor practice. So the important thing is that you can see that this practice is something which is relatively new to the sector of education in the case of Europe, but which is increasing. So that has been this kind of change and innovation over the period that we look at. And and so we can actually see what is, if we don't know what is changing, it is difficult to know actually what we can actually ascribe the change. But here, perhaps one of the limitations of the work is that we're looking at change, a significant change, but of course we don't know the intentionality, and so we need to find out why this has happened, in the countries where it was the case, or what it doesn't happen so much in countries where it doesn't happen, because there are many possible drivers of innovation. An important point to keep in mind is that innovation is not an end in itself. You don't innovate for the sake of innovating, but because you're trying to improve something, and it may work or it may not work. You don't know that it will always work, and we are aware of many innovations, like asbestos, for example, that after a few decades, we find, oh my God, that was not the right thing to do, and then we have to remove all the asbestos from all the different buildings. And, we can talk about many other ones in terms of, especially now when we think about sustainability and environment. One thing which is specific to education is that it's not about so much the profit, or which is actually usually the measure that we have in the private sector, but it's really about improvement. And so sometimes you can actually improve, the cost efficiency or the quality, but it can come at the expense of the other thing, so that in fact what you've tried to, you're creating or improving something, for example, your cost efficiency, but it has a cost in terms of quality, or vice versa. So that, these kind of trade-offs are the things that have to be taken into account when we think about innovation. Another thing that is important, especially when we link it to research, is that innovation can actually become effective even if it wasn't always the case. So here, think of technology. Many of the reasons why, for example, technology was not so popular was because there was very little evidence that it actually increased learning outcomes. But of course, it doesn't mean that it can never happen. Part of it perhaps is that we don't have the digital competencies to make it happen. Part of it is that we do it because learning outcome is just one of the reasons to do it. And perhaps now the reason to do it is more for inclusion, or to have a modern education. And so we have to not think that, the evaluation that we do of innovation, as important as they are, should actually be one forever. And then last thing to think about is that, there are innovation cycles. You don't want to innovate all the time. You need to innovate, but then you need to stabilize to see how things work. And then at some point, innovate again. But if you're changing everything all the time, then obviously nothing is going to work, and then everyone will hate innovation. And that's this idea of innovation fatigue, that we may have in some cases. Last point I want to make is that people often use the adjective innovative. Well, I think that, what is innovative somewhere may or may not be innovative elsewhere. So it's not really about whether the practice is innovative. The innovation is really because there is a significant change, compared to before. So, for example, project-based learning may be not mainstream, whether it is innovative in the sense that it is kind of totally new. It's not the case, However, it can be an innovation in many places where it is not yet used so much. And so that's really one of the important takeaways for you, I hope, is that when you think of innovative, think whether it is actually a significant change compared to the practices that existed before. So an important aspect of innovation is that, it shouldn't be somebody's idea that we implement at scale, it has to be disciplined and it has to relate to research in many ways. And so let me give you two examples of that. One is around dropout in high school, and that's a technology example. So, one of the things that people have done is to introduce early warning system, which are these digital tools, which use some of the data that we have in the education system to see if we can actually identify who is at risk of dropping out from high school, usually. And then, of course, we have to have an intervention to prevent it, and so that's where this is an interesting example of, machine and human cooperating together, the machine trying to, with the algorithm, try to identify who might actually drop out from high school. And then, of course, we need to have human beings to intervene and to do something to make it not happen. This kind of tools is particularly interesting when the teachers do not notice actually that people are going to drop out. Otherwise, you can actually see it yourself that it's going to happen and you can intervene without any help of the machine. But one interesting aspect of it is also that it helps us to think differently about what it means to drop out. And to give you an example of that, there was a study about dropouts and using this kind of machines. And actually so that's an example coming from the United States. What people have seen is that you have different types of students who may drop out, so 40%, which is a large number, correspond to what we have in mind when we think of school dropouts. So that's what, colleagues Bowers and Sprout have called the jaded dropouts. Basically, they are the students who don't like school, don't come to school as often as they should, and they have low grades and they have declining grades, and so they are on this kind of declining slope. And so that's really one of the big profiles of the dropouts, except that they are not the majority of them. And most of the intervention that we have for dropout students are actually for those students. We have the quiet dropouts, and here the big difference is that they like school, they have a good positive, they're engaged, they come to school. They also have low grades, and actually they have increasing grades. But the problem for them is that they're not increasing quickly enough. And so that's how they end up not really getting to the bar and not, passing the test. And again, these are different types of dropouts, and they require different types of interventions. And finally, you have, in fact, I would like to say as many as almost 10% of the students who are involved dropouts. They like school, they have high grades, but something unexpected happens usually, and they need to take, an additional course, or there is something that happens. And in that particular case, so, we're in the United States and they have this credit system. So in many cases, it is just that for administrative reasons, the students have not taken all the courses that they should have. And when they reach, the time for graduation, they realize that they would have to do additional courses, and they just decide not to continue. And so that's also a very different type of intervention that is needed. And so I think that one of the important aspects of innovation and to study innovation in discipline way is that it helps us to learn and to better intervene and, in the way that we improve our systems. Another, and I'm going to dwell a bit more on that one, example is a project that we had at the OECD about how to foster creativity and critical thinking. And so here that's really how we can actually implement competency-based curricula. That's something that has been one of the objectives of most of the OECD countries and most of the EU countries. The reason for that initially comes really from the question of how to empower people to innovate, and the fact that creativity, critical thinking, and innovation are actually on top of the list of skills that employers believe is very important. So here you can have an example of the World Economic Forum's survey, and you can see that it is something that has been part of their top 5 list for a long time. So the way we think about it is how we can actually simultaneously develop the technical skills of students, so the knowledge, the procedural and the content knowledge, the know-what and the know-how in a subject, but also how we can develop other types of skills, the behavioral and social skills, as well as the higher order skills such as creativity and critical thinking. And all these things overlap, but it is important to be very intentional, because it is not because you are, let's say, very good in science that necessarily you have a strong critical thinking in science, or that you're very creative scientist. Even so, all these things are related. And it is the same with the behavioral and social skills. It's not because you're good at science that you're a great communicator about it, or that in fact you even have interest and passion for it. But of course, you need to have interest and perseverance to actually acquire the technical skills, and you need the technical skills if you want to be able to be a creative or critical thinker in science as well. So it's a very the big question that we have was actually, what does it mean in practice? Because it's very rare to find people who say, "Oh, we really don't want to do that." The big question that we have is, and actually it's a question that was asked to me once, which was basically, tell me what it means to enhance the creativity of a 10-year-old in mathematics, and then I will write the textbook for you. So that was a big challenge, and in some ways, that's what we tried to do during this project. So what we really wanted to do is to develop a method, so which is not limited to creativity and critical thinking, but could actually be applied to other competencies as well. And so we wanted to articulate an international language on creativity and critical thinking in the context of education, develop examples, so we developed a bank of pedagogical resources to teach and assess creativity and critical thinking without changing the curricula, really within the existing curricula. We wanted to see what are the kind of professional development that could be offered to teachers so that this could happen, and try to work our talk and so try to develop instruments to evaluate and to see whether actually, the changes that we hoped would happen would be happening, and actually provide instruments for countries or for organizations interested in doing that so that they can actually apply them. So first thing that is very important is to know what you're trying to do when you do, a discipline innovation, and so that you have a set of actions. So here you can see what we have. Basically, we work with the teachers at different levels. We provided them with a toolkit of rubrics, of lesson plans, or course syllabi, depending on the levels, professional development plans, and we asked them to actually redesign their courses so that they would provide more space to creativity and critical thinking for the students. And then what we hoped in terms of outcomes, that the teachers actually beliefs around creativity and critical thinking would change, that their practices would change, and that at the end of the day, it would also have an impact on on the students' creativity and critical thinking, as well as on other learning outcomes. And so to develop that, we've worked over 2 school years with a network of schools in 11 countries. And you can see that they are very diverse, and that was a very important element because we could really see the differences in the professional culture of all these different countries, and see how the practices that we try to develop could be adapted to these different contexts. So what we try to do is to develop and field test, these instruments. So we started from, in fact, the research literature on critical thinking and creativity, but we also tried to develop some more engaging types of tools. And so Grant Snyder, who is a comic artist developed these two beautiful comics for us to try to say in a simple way what critical thinking and creativity was all about. And at the end of the day, we went from this research literature to conceptual rubrics. So basically, it's just a way to simplify and describe what are the key elements of creativity and critical thinking to observe in the classroom, and what are the things that, as teachers, you may want to try to develop, while you're teaching whatever subject that you are teaching. And of course, the idea is that at the end of the day, all these words, you will forget them, and perhaps the only thing that you will continue to think about are these very simple catchwords of inquiring, imagining, doing, reflecting, and that you will know what they mean for creativity and what you will know what for critical thinking as well. We've developed them actually in different domains. That's what we've learned from working in the field, that just having this generic rubric was not enough for many of the teachers, and they asked us, I want one for my subject. This is visual arts. We have one in science, in mathematics, in language art, and you can find actually all of them on our website. We also developed examples of lesson plans because people wanted to were asking us, so tell us what it looks like, So here you can see we have developed over 100 in music, math, interdisciplinary, or in science. And basically what we were asking teachers so that they would be intentional was to decompose their lesson plans, or how they're going to conduct their lesson in different steps, and reflect on when they would actually give the students the ability to exercise some of the skills that were identified as part of the rubric. So that's what you see on this one. So here it's a mapping of a lesson plan that I haven't presented, but we're basically saying that instead of the 2 or 5 of the lesson, actually I'm making my students make connections to other scientific ideas and concepts. In the 1 and 7, in terms of the critical thinking, I'm making them identify and question assumptions or generally accepted ideas, etc. So that's really this idea of stepping back and being very intentional and metacognitive. What we've learned as well is that just having the rubrics was not enough, and we had to develop some kind of quality checks, and here that's the 8 design criteria for good lesson that we have here, and basically, making sure that you're trying to connect with the students and create something that is interesting for them, be challenging enough. Make sure that there is a subject knowledge which is embedded in the class, that you have a real product, and that the teaching and learning is not just about taking a test or an assessment, and that you leave room for the students to actually put a bit of themselves in some of the tasks that you provide. So having co-design part of the problem, making sure that the problem can be looked at from different perspectives, and very important for teachers then to let go and so leave room for the unexpected. So prepare a lot before that. If one of your students wants to do something which is a bit crazy or out of your comfort zone, then just let it happen and be ready not to have all the answers. And then finally have time to reflect on what we have been doing, which is for all of us probably the most difficult thing to do. So teaching and learning has to be related to assessment, and so we also design assessment rubrics to make sure that in the task there is a way for the students to see whether they are making progress or where they are actually at as part of their formative process. And what we try to do is to bring all these different things to an app, and which is actually already accessible. So we're still working on the next version as a pilot, but where you can find all of these different resources, and if you register as a teacher, so you can have a look and let me know what you think about it. So finally, we wanted to see what were the findings, and how we can actually document all these different things. So we have actually, and I'm not going to go into the details of that one, developing, evaluating and monitoring instruments, and make sure that we had, we're following through questionnaires, through different tests, what was going on, and so that we could adjust, the course of the action over time. And one of the things we found, is that actually the rubrics were that many of the teachers were actually changing on different things. So you can see that if we just focus on the very much, well, it depends a little bit, so they haven't necessarily changed very much how they prepare the lessons, but, they try to be more consistent in what they were doing before and change a little bit, the task, etc. And that's an important point with innovation. We don't want to change everything because no one has time to do that, One of the important effects we've seen is that there was more collaboration and discussion among the teachers, and so some kind of professional learning communities appeared. And I know that's something which is very important and very much in the spirit of eTwinning. So that's really one of the key aspects of the method I'm proposing here. And at the end of the day, we've of course documented that as an OECD report, which is available on our website. And what we've learned, is that you have a strong clarity on the learning outcomes, good examples of lesson plans, good professional learning opportunity provided to the teachers, and which have to provide both structure and challenge to the students, but leave opportunities for them to actually develop and exercise their critical thinking and their creativity. And it's very much about providing the appropriate task, assignments, and assessment criteria, and that requires a lot of work. So time was actually one of the big issues for many of the teachers, on how to do that. And I believe that one of the solutions to that is that the more you do something, the less time it requires to do it. So we need to leave time for this to happen. But the good news is that it's taking less and less time as we go. And here I'm not going to go on all the different criteria, but basically it's very important to be, that's more for the policy makers, but basically it's the importance to have a system and alignment as part of the system. So that's a very important aspect of it. So to conclude, I'd like to say that actually you're part of the innovation process. So it's not just something that is happening to you from outside. And one of the things that we've been doing is actually to propose a few tools that you can use as part of your establishments to, either measure the innovation culture that you have, and we have a short questionnaire for school principals, teachers, and students about that, so that there can be a reflection about it. And also you develop one around how to innovate for more equity and inclusion within the institution. So here are examples that you can take and adapt to your local context. But again, it's more the idea of having a tool to inspire you to develop your own questionnaires if you want, but, thinking that it is an important thing to consult and to discuss with many of the people. So in the case of the one with equity, which is a bit longer than the one on the culture, on innovation culture, we have actually also proposed a kind of workshop that comes with it, so that everyone then can share their view and think about what is the action that we can take to improve the situation. So how do we go from innovation-friendly ecosystems? How do we build, this innovation-friendly ecosystem in education? One is, of course, thinking about how we scale something that has succeeded, but another way to think about it is how we can actually scale a culture of innovation and how we nurture this culture of innovation. And that's really one of the things that is the responsibility of all of you in many ways. Important point is that innovation should be disciplined, and so you have to pay attention and try to document what you do so that you can improve things over time. And keep in mind that it will take time, so it's not going to happen immediately. Innovation requires development, and that's why we have tried to develop, this app, try to translate, the research into products. That's why we have the coding, we have the rubrics, we have the examples of lesson plans, and that's really a very important aspect if you want it to be taken up and you can discuss with your colleagues. But perhaps the last thing I would like to say that innovation is all about learning. It's about knowledge flowing and knowledge being mobilized, but it's all about individual and collective learning. And that's at all levels of the system. And that's really one of the things that I believe eTwinning are very strong at, and think that innovation is not just something that requires professional development after it has been introduced. It is actually a form of innovation, of professional learning. And as I've mentioned before, with the work on creativity and critical thinking, it has actually developed these professional learning communities and this need to learn together with some of the other teachers. And I believe that's really one of the big outcomes of any innovation. Thank you very much.
Thank you also, Stefan, for this really inspiring keynote address. We have some questions for you. In your extensive work on cultivating creativity and critical thinking in education, could you share with us, please, an example or a case study that stands out to you as particularly transformative? And according to you, what were the factors that contributed to this success?
Difficult question. I'm often asked about who is best in innovation and or what are the most spectacular ones. I would say, as part of our project on creativity and critical thinking, probably Thailand was a particularly successful side. They've had, in what we have measured, really spectacular results. And in their case, I believe that it is very much because they've paid a lot of attention involving all the teachers to provide them with a lot of support. And so that it was a very hands-on type of intervention that they've had. Another one, which I find very interesting, is what the government of Wales have been doing, and how they've tried to systematize, the importance of creativity as part of the schools, and the fact that they've done it at the same time as they were changing the Welsh curriculum, which actually made it possible to fuse them in some ways. Portugal, and so we are continuing our work in higher education, and I would say that over there, one of the outcomes of the work was the creation of a network of higher education institutions that want to focus on critical thinking. And so that from a few institutions working with us in the project, we ended up with a league which can be a bit sustained. The question is, what is the criteria or the criterion for success, in terms of, and one of the things we're still trying to do is to make innovation sustainable. And in that respect, we have to keep in mind that it's not something easy to do where you see spectacular results very quickly, So it's a long and slow transformation that is happening, and that we have to work hard on if we really want it to continue. And that's why we're still at the stage where we're providing all these different resources, and we still hope that we are going to embark more and more people, and hopefully in the eTwinning community too, as part of this long journey.
Great. And we have another question to ask. With your expertise in digitalization and emerging technologies, could you provide insights on how educational institutions can strike a balance between leveraging cutting-edge technology and ensuring inclusivity, especially in countries, areas, and schools where resources may be limited? Are there any specific strategies or principles you would recommend?
One of the ways to, especially in contexts where you don't have that much technology connectivity, or, and make sure that you can use great technologies with the students, I think it's by basically using what is already available to students. And for that, what I'm thinking of that you have the most cutting edge is the tool that you have in your pocket, your mobile phone. And many students do have one. Sometimes they are, smartphones and that do a lot of different things. And I think it's a very important tool to use. It has a lot of things in it. For example, you can do, if you are a music teacher, one of the things that for those having an iPhone, for example, and as you know, it's a significant share of the European market, they can use things like GarageBand, and where they can compose music, they can do, learn about it in a way that would be totally impossible without it. They don't need to know about music to do that, but they can learn how to compose, how to do a lot of things, how to experiment in a way that wasn't possible before. You can actually make them use it for taking pictures or doing videos as part of their neighborhood and make them do some creative projects. So I think it's important to keep in mind that it's not the technology which is a driver, but it is the pedagogy, so that you need to think of how can I use all these tools to make my students do things which are actually more innovative. And for that, you often don't need that many resources. You can actually use the one that you have at hand. If you have more, you can do more things perhaps, but it will still be limited by your imagination, in many ways. And so that's really what is the most important. Another thing I could say that if you want really cutting edge technology, like for example, things like the metaverse, which was the thing that we were talking about before generative AI, it's a bit expensive, but one thing that is possible is to share, is to if you have equipment that is expensive, it could be to see how, this kind of the devices, tools can rotate across schools so that in fact students from different schools can benefit from these things and be exposed to it. Like we do, with our libraries, or like we can do, when with movies, for example. It will still be expensive, but that's one way to make these things accessible.
Thank you, Stefan, for this. As someone like you has extensively studied and reported on the role of technology in education, can you tell us if there are any emerging technologies, according to you, that you believe will have a significant impact on education in the future? And how should educators prepare themselves for these imminent changes?
I think that it would be difficult to say that one of the technology that will not have an impact is generative AI. That's what we've been talking about for all the past year. And so I believe it will have a significant impact on it. We'll see how it will evolve. But it is true, somewhat challenging for teachers and educators. I would say that we've talked a lot about it in terms of cheating, losing our skills. And that's true, that's one of the risks that it has. But I would say that there are some possible opportunities, such as, for example, in fact, being more creative, by being helped by the generative AI, or by exercising your critical thinking, by being able to have, to criticize what it produces, or to actually have it discuss how it has produced different things for different students. So I think there are a lot of different ways that it can help, because if you think of it as an aid rather than a substitute to student work, then it can actually allow teachers to do much, much more than what they were being able to do before, just because there was not enough time to do that. So if actually generative AI can help to accelerate the process, that can actually help. Even so, I agree that, it also has challenges on our traditional ways of educating, of, giving assignments, of testing students, and we have to think about it. Another aspect I could mention is actually perhaps something which is not as groundbreaking, but something like adaptive learning systems. I believe that they are still overall absent from many schools and classrooms, but that, basically those are those skills, that those systems that help students practice on a particular domain, mathematics, or the learning their language, learning to read, to understand text, etc. And I think they're interesting because they really offer a lot of possibilities for personalized learning and personalization, or individualized learning, which can happen in the classroom. So it doesn't have to happen at home, and it doesn't happen at home, usually speaking. And that still needs to be supervised by the teachers. And so here there is something which is actually perhaps the challenge for teachers, is actually how we can work with differently, because we can take advantage of these different types of systems. And I think the big question is how a lot of the technology can augment the intelligence of humans, as a calculator do for us, rather than be a substitute, and what kind of new models we can invent for education so that these things can actually happen.
Many thanks. Unfortunately, we would like to ask more questions, but we really don't have the time. It was a very inspiring keynote address. Thank you again very much, Stefan. And Marta, I think it's the end of the first part.
Exactly, Christos, is the end of the first part, but stay with us for the second part. And actually, before moving on, we have some important housekeeping rules for our participants. So for those who are registered participants, don't forget to access the event space. Go there where you will find all the necessary information to enjoy the conference and make the most out of it. Also, like last year, we have prepared a virtual exhibition hall on the annual theme. So don't miss it. Go on the event space in the networking section and access the exhibition where you will find a lot of resources on the annual theme of innovation and education.
Also, please pay attention to the emails and the information that you will be receiving during these days of the conference. In there, you will find very important information about the workshops and the networking activity. And I think, I'm very sure that the commissioner actually mentioned the eTwinning book, but I think we should mention it one more time.
Definitely,
Marta.
Christos, we should mention it one more time. The eTwinning book, it's out, it's published. So make sure to go on our website and check it out.
So I think that was it. That's the end of the first part of this opening of the first day of the eTwinning Annual Conference 2023. You can have a break. You are allowed to for until 6:30. Be back for the panel discussion with the prize winners of this year, where you will listen a lot about innovation and education. The panel discussion will be moderated by Irini Pateraki and Alexandra Albanidou. Many thanks.
Thank you very much for being with us today.
Welcome back. Hope you enjoyed the first part of the conference with our colleagues Marta Giuliani and Christos Boussoulas. And now, after a quite short break, we are back and we are expecting that you will actively participate in this panel discussion. So you can see and you can use the hashtags that our colleagues have shown you before, eTwin for Innovation and eTwin Conference 23. And I'm Irini Pateraki, the Pedagogical and Monitoring Manager of European School Education Platform and eTwinning. And actually, you may remember me from the 3 previous years that I was presenting by myself the eTwinning European Prize Ceremony. This year, however, is quite different, and I'm very excited about that. First of all, because I'm here with Alexandra.
Hi, Irini. Good evening, all. I'm very glad to be the co-host of this session, together with my colleague Irini. Although it's a bit stressful to be in front of the camera this year, I'm very excited for the discussion that we have ahead of us. So, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Alexandra Albanidou, and I'm the Pedagogical Coordinator for the European School Education Platform and eTwinning. Irini, would you like to share what we have prepared for tonight?
Well, actually, first of all, we have some exciting news to share, although I know my colleagues have already said something about that this year we don't have a prize ceremony because online prize ceremony because we organize the prize ceremonies during our on-site events. One has taken place already in Bratislava, and you may have seen the video at the beginning, and the other is taking place in Seville on the 9th of November. And well, as we like, however, celebrating and acknowledging our European prize winners, we have invited a representative per project to discuss about what else? Innovation. But before we go and introduce you our prize winners, we would like you to tell us, what does innovation mean to you? So I suppose you're quite familiar with Slido, so please go to slido.com and write the code that you can see in the screen, #3746044, and write, what does innovation mean to you?
And in the meantime, Irini, as we are expecting our first answers from the online audience, so since we both have a teaching background, would you like to share what innovation means to you? Do you have maybe any example, any previous experience?
Well, I have an example to share about potatoes. Well, potatoes. So many years ago, in 2006, I was teaching. I was a kindergarten teacher, and I was teaching in a small island, Aegina, which was close to Athens. It's still close to Athens. And there I had the idea, what about creating our own garden? You know, sustainable garden, plant our own vegetables. Kids were very thrilled about that, and my colleagues. So we started, we did everything. We planted potatoes, lettuces, and at the end of the process, after we took care of our vegetables, we harvested what we did, and we had a nice meal with fried potatoes and nice salad. And our students were so thrilled that they were actually eating what they had produced. So back then, that for me could be considered quite innovative.
Well, it's certainly a fascinating example, and I can imagine that your students were very excited to eat what they have grown, and I can already see and imagine how enthusiastic you were to organize this activity. But I think we should always take into account that innovation differs from teacher to teacher, school to school. We need to take into consideration the full context. But I think we have the ideal individuals to talk about innovation with us. They have been awarded for their innovative projects. So let's get to meet our panelists, our guests for tonight. To be fair, let's start with the first project based on the age category, up to 6 years. And we have Leticia Gil Ramos with us and the project STEAM Preschool Academy. Leticia, first of all, it's great to see you on screen. Again, very happy to see you. Welcome. And would you like to share a few things about yourself?
Good evening, everyone. First of all, thank you so much for your invitation. It's a great pleasure to be here with you this evening, talking about the innovation in education, being on behalf of my project colleagues to whom I send a very strong greeting. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Leticia. We are moving on to the age category of 7 to 11 and the project eTwinners as pros. Anita Simak is with us. Good evening, Anita.
Good evening. Hi. It's great to be with you here this evening from Zadar in Croatia.
Thank you, Anita. We are moving on, age category 12 to 15 and the project Myth Arts, Myths in Arts and Literature. And we have Maria Lorenza Campanella with us. Maria Lorenza, good evening. Welcome.
Good evening. I'm very happy to be here. I'm from Vibo Valencia in the south of Italy, and it's an honor for me to represent my team composed of 2 teachers from Spain and 1 from France.
It's an honor for us as well to have you all here tonight. Thank you, Maria Lorenza. We're moving on, and the next project is RoboCode, age category 16 to 19, and Natalia Gigi is the representative of this group. Good evening, Natalia.
Hello, everybody. I'm very happy to be here with you tonight. I come from Greece. I actually live in Athens, and I'm very happy to be here.
Great, Natalia. We're also very happy. We're moving on to the next project, the innovate eTwinning project, Solutions Against Greenhouse Effects. And we have Tatiana Gulik with us. Tatiana, happy to see you. Welcome.
Hello. I'm really glad that I can see all of you again. And I'm really thankful for this prize and proud of it with my colleagues.
Thank you, Tatiana. Thank you very much. Irini, I believe we can see some answers already on our first poll.
And yes, before we go to our guests, and I'm sure that all the people and I see that there are people still typing, we can see that the word that comes first about what does innovation mean to you is there are actually 2 words. So the first is eTwinning, and the second is creativity. So this is what most of you believe. Then we have like new ideas, exploration, new creative way of thinking, open mind, proactivity, fun, willingness, improvement, transformation, challenges, simplicity of life, new creative ways of thinking, change, open mind, and exploration, progress. So the 2 words that they keep going like big is creativity and eTwinning. Alexandra.
Yes, I see we're already on a very good path. I see more participants are typing, but I guess we can move on with our discussion and go a bit deeper into our topic. So I would like now to ask our guests the first question, which is of course relevant to innovation, and I would like to start with Leticia. Leticia, which one do you think was the most innovative element in your project?
Well, the truth is that it's not a simple question since the whole project itself was innovative. So, but if I had to highlight some aspects, perhaps I would talk about the different missions that the students from different countries presented to each other month by month. Simple challenges that they had to create, to solve, and to show to the other at the end of the month. For instance, mission 1 was related to unplugged activities, and we challenged to each other with these ones to create a chain. And we proposed routes, sequences, or orientation games to develop. And another example could be related to mission 4, which our students created 3D items in their table maps to help our mascots, robots, to find a target. So coding and decoding activities were essential in our activities. So innovation could be related to these missions and these challenges that we were talking about, and with coding.
Okay, excellent, Leticia. We will have the time to go a bit deeper into the project and learn a bit more. What about you, Anita? Which one you think was the most innovative element in your project?
Cannot
multidisciplinary project, and the pupils were involved in so many innovative hands-on activities. It was actually a huge body of work that ran for an entire school year. But I would have to say that the most innovative elements included student involvement, student agency, and media literacy integration, because the students were given great freedom in their choice of project topics and activities, and they actually became tutors themselves, working on learning materials to use in transnational classes. So ultimately, the project resulted in a lot of successful peer teaching sessions among very young students. And I would say the media literacy also was one of the big factors and elements in innovation. And all of this combined kind of gave each and every student a great sense of self-worth and pride and responsibility. So the teachers were there really just to mentor, support, and nudge them along, but it was the students that were the drivers. So I'd say that was the most innovative element in our project.
Excellent. Many thanks, Anita. What about you, Maria Lorenza?
Okay, I think that the most innovative elements of our project was the use of the Latin language and culture, because we use English as the means of communication, but all the project and activities were based on the classical world. In fact, we tried to arouse curiosity in our students for the Latin culture and the classical culture through the study of mythology from different perspectives, from the perspective of literature, painting, music, integrating all of them. They demonstrate a great interest for this topic, at the same time arouse their knowledge and their awareness of being European, and that classical world is at the base of the European identity.
Excellent, thank you. Thank you very much, Maria Lorenza. Moving on to Natalia.
The most innovative element in RoboCode, I think it was the use of methodologies such as the blended learning methodologies, flipped classroom. But as Irene said at the beginning, when she defined innovation in her setting, the flipped classroom cannot be considered that innovative, but in the context where it was used, with the vet students who prepared the teaching material themselves, and they prepared the videos, and they provided feedback to the primary school students, it was definitely a breakthrough experience for them. We also combined flipped classroom with peer teaching, which it's also not something new in education. When I was a little girl, I'm talking about the previous century, there was a bunch of us, the geeks of the class, the sixth graders who wanted to be teachers, and it was a very common informal policy we had at school in those days to have the sixth graders act as teachers for lower primary school students. And although peer teaching is an old methodology that we can use in class, it is very effective because in our case, in RoboCode, the vet students managed to learn a lot better what they had to learn because they had to teach it. And they also worked on other competencies, such as problem solving and trying to find how to support the young students online, because of the whole project was done online via the teaching. So I think blended learning and peer teaching were the most innovative elements in our project, RoboCode.
Excellent, very interesting, Natalia, thank you. So we have student agency so far, we have students as mentors, we have coding in very, very young ages, literature, arts, and Tatiana, I would also like to hear your thoughts on this question.
our innovative thing that, but now I don't think it's innovative anymore because it's 3 years ago it was a circle activity. That means that all the schools do the same thing, but for each other. So without one school, the task can't be completed. So everybody do the part of the whole job, and the final activity, the final aim was that the goal is completed. Then one innovative thing also was, I think, in embedding experts to classes. So we have experts on methodology or other things, and they use they make lectures for our students, and not only lectures. They show their work, their working surrounding. So also for the new jobs in STEAM they find out. And also activity hackathon. I think that nowadays is already more known than at that days. Very interesting activity where the students find solutions for the problems. First, they decide about the problem, and then they find a solution for these problems. And we try to show these solutions to our local communities also.
Excellent. Many thanks, Tatiana. As we said at the beginning of our discussion, innovation differs from context to context, so there was no need to do these disclaimers. We really understand your context. Many thanks. Irini.
Yeah, so actually I would like to ask something Anita, because she mentioned about students. And I would like, and I know, eTwinning Pros was a project that students had lots to say, and they contributed a lot even in the planning of the project. Can you share maybe some feedback coming from your students that highlight the project's impact on them?
Well, the students involved in this project were pretty young. They were 9 and 10 years old, but they were also eTwinning novices. So for them, this experience was exciting and a little bit daunting at the same time. But my goal was to create a learning environment that allowed them all to nurture creativity and facilitate open communication. I'd say the feedback was really wonderful from the students because they were the ones that chose their topics. So their self-confidence grew throughout the various stages of the project itself. And you could see them becoming more at ease with public speaking and developing their self-initiative. So it was really obvious to me that they were taking into consideration different perspectives, they shared resources, and they all rose to the various challenges the project threw at them. I think it's a misconception to assume that pupils today are all digitally literate just because they are growing up in a digital age. It's usually the exact opposite that is true for young students. So when they're bombarded with social media posts and information, they kind of tend to feel lost. So the feedback that I got with regards to safety on the internet and their confidence was all really, really positive. And a lot of the feedback we received, all participants, all teachers in this project, was that the students had an increased understanding of how to use the internet responsibly and ethically as well. And I think the main points of feedback were digital devices should not only be used for communication and entertainment, but for responsible learning, understanding, and social growth. So these were just some of the really positive feedback comments that we all received.
Which I think it's totally right. And through an eTwinning project, students can really understand what it means to be in an online world better than when they are all in their mobile, for example. Tatiana, you have older students and they are IVET students. So I suppose the feedback you got from their participation in an eTwinning project like that, it was a bit different. And I know that your project was also an Erasmus Plus project. So you also had mobilities. Would you like to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, our project was also include mobilities, and my students were from primary schools, but ages from 13 to 15 years, and the colleagues were vet students. So we implemented also Natalia said that we also used vet students as teachers, and we use video conferences a lot for direct learning, because we use a lot of technology, new technology like Arduinos and robots, and they were our teachers, and peer learning was one of the things that we use a lot. But our students that from this project that's very interesting, were also now coming to our school to teach younger students using this technology. This is, I think, really extra impact of this project, because this old technology could lay in the corners, could lay in the drawers, but no, not in our school. So now they are participating in other projects with this equipment, and our students from these projects teach them how to use this. I think that it's the best thing that we can.
They become the mentors for the other students,
Yeah.
which is really great.
All right. Now I think since we are speaking already about students, I would like to move on with the next question, Irini, about students' involvement. I would like to start with Leticia, since Leticia had very, very young students, up to 6 years. So Leticia, could you please tell us about students, if your students actively contributed with ideas in the project, and if so, how did you encourage their participation? We see sometimes that teachers might already have a plan and the students are just executing. So I would like to know if your students were actively sharing their ideas with you for the project.
Yes, of course. Not only students, but also families actively contributed ideas. It was project-based learning, and one of the essential characteristics of this active methodology is the research carried out by students. But as you said, Alexandra, our students were 5-6 years old. So as we were in the early childhood education stage, family collaboration was essential too. For example, Mission 7, developed in May during the lockdown, was related to the creation of a joint maze, representing one of the most interesting or significant monuments of each partner school. So they created a common video by the presentation of the maze. Family collaboration in this way was essential, so there were different steps that they need to follow. So they need to choose a monument and create the video. They need to prepare the QR codes that they need to put in the table map, and they scan them. So they learn about the partner location. So not only pupils and students' ideas were essential, but also families' ones. And how did I encourage them? So I try to promote student thinking, giving time to think, and showing them that making mistakes helps us learn. showing a concrete example, in mission 2, our students use their bodies to find alternative ways to find targets. And we learned that there was not only a unique way or unique path to achieve the target. So we looked for different solutions to the problem we faced.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Leticia. You also are bringing a very important topic, family involvement. Thank you for bringing it up. I would also like to hear from Maria Lorenza on that question with the project Myth in Arts and Literature.
Yes, of course, the students were at the base of our project because most of the activities were planned with the idea of a learner-based activities. So they were productive, they worked in transnational teams so that I had the opportunity to exchange ideas and share documents or materials using the forum in the twin space or taking decision using Tricider. Each of them had the opportunity to express his ideas, creativity, and competence, skills, and choosing, for example, in a collaborative web quest, the topic to develop and to search. Choosing the photos, the monument, the art of work, everything was based on their interests. In addition, we used some of the students that were great in managing the teams to create the ebook that collects all the works of the teams. And one of my students, for example, wrote the introduction that represent the synthesis of the work and the connection with the classical words. And it was very important because they had the opportunity to be creative and express their opinions.
Excellent, very interesting, Maria Lorenza. Thank you very much. Irene, back to you.
Yeah, so you organized and you did this project, and I think that in all projects we may face some challenges. And I would like to ask Natalia, did you had any challenges related to cross-cultural collaboration? And if so, how did you address that kind of challenges? Because we are talking, different cultures, different countries, maybe different ways of thinking.
You're right. We did face some challenges, but they were not actually cross-cultural. They were not related to the cross-cultural aspect of our collaboration. You see, there were 2 countries collaborating in Robocode, Greece and Poland. With Justina, who was the Polish partner, we had been working for a long time before doing the Robocode together. We had already worked 6 years on 6 different projects with Justina. So we had got to know each other very well. There were, of course, at the beginning when I started doing eTwinning projects, there were problems related to cultural differences. But I think that my advice would be that we need to be tolerant. We need to give our partners the time and space to work together, and we shouldn't have biases. We shouldn't generalize. We have met one teacher from one country, so we know everybody from that country. That's not true. That would be unfair. We also another problem, another challenge that we usually face in eTwinning projects, and it was true at the beginning of Robocode, it was the problem with the language. The English comes as a barrier to the knowledge of the language. It comes as a barrier to creating successful projects. So we need to psychologically support our partners, that it doesn't matter if you don't speak perfect English, don't speak English fluently. There are other aspects of the project that each teacher can contribute to, and we can have a very good result with a very positive impact on the students. So there are challenges, but we're eTwinners and we can overcome them.
Thank you, Natalia. Tatiana, do you agree with these challenges, or are there more? Or...
Yeah, of course, I can agree with language barriers. We passed it because it was Erasmus project. They changed the countries, that the pupils change the countries, and of course, for those who don't speak English at home, especially, we prepare vocabularies with the language of the country, and we publish them. We have also a kind of press teams who prepares this, so everybody can come to the project. It was basically the STEAM project, but also those who are not good at STEAM, who have some more other capabilities, they can also come and see. Else, we have some problems, not problems, but issues with the food because of different countries, and we made a workshop at our school with the cooking, and it was really interesting how what comes for eating from that workshops. So it was really nice to have different cultures and to know each other also in that way.
Yeah, it's a challenge, but I think it's an opportunity, all this cross-cultural collaboration. And yes, I have to agree that the dominant language is English in eTwinning projects, but I think that nobody is a native speaker anymore. So, I mean, we all have our difficulties, but as long as we are eager to collaborate and work together, we can do it. And of course, we still have some projects run in French or in German, so there are some more languages. And I think that at the end of the day, if we are willing, we can go forward and we can have a European prize.
Yes.
All right. So we have talked about the challenges that you faced during the project. We talked about students' involvement, about the innovative elements of these projects. I would like now to move on and talk about the future of eTwinning projects. I'm personally very curious for your answers. Irini, I'm sure you're curious as well. I would like to ask you about how do you envision the future of eTwinning projects? If there are any emerging trends or technologies that you think will shape the future of eTwinning projects. Of course, here we would like to hear from our online audience as well. You can once again connect on slido.com with the same hashtag 3746044. So yes, we are waiting for your responses online. And in the meantime, I would like to address this question to Leticia. Leticia, I don't know if you have ever thought about the future of eTwinning projects, but I'm very curious to hear your thoughts on that.
Okay, yes, I try to think about it. So as we can see with official data, eTwinning projects continue to increase year after year. So I feel positive in this way. I believe eTwinning projects will continue to grow in the future because I think teachers more and more know the benefits of working with our students in this way. So there are different emerging trends such as virtual reality, mobile learning, gamification, or even artificial intelligence that are involving all our lives. But I think we are going to try to cover all of these trends in our eTwinning projects. And I completely, I feel and I think that we are going to solve this and to try to take the most of this with all the European teachers.
That's a very good approach. You will benefit from all these technologies that are emerging, VR, AI, and yes, I'm very curious to see the projects that you will create with those technologies. What about you, Anita?
To be honest, because I think the future brings challenges and, as Irene said, opportunities for learning and growing. And teaching and learning have kind of become intertwined with the digital world. Technology is an integral part of our everyday life. And when it is used effectively, digital tools can provide all learners, whether they're teachers like me or my students, there's so many opportunities to be creative and innovative. So when I'm thinking about future eTwinning projects, I'm thinking about how my students can grow, how I can grow, and how I can help choose the tools to help my students develop all the 21st century skills that are still of such vital importance. So I like projects that help my students approach challenges with a very different perspective, to plan and create spaces together with them for making, collaborating, tinkering, because I think it's all of our responsibilities to be digital leaders and to use these digital tools responsibly and to our advantage. And the only way we can really do this is to be informed, continuously informed, keep on continuously learning, but be critical and open-minded to all the advantages and possibilities that are on offer to us in the future. So it is possible to turn our classrooms into engaging spaces that can connect the world. I always say this, we connect our classrooms with the world beyond the four walls of the classroom itself. But we need to kind of keep at the back of our mind the question, what added value to the learning environment can digital tools bring? So the focus needs to be on technology, not as a means to the end, but what additional value can it offer to help support learning? So I'm looking forward. I'm excited about the future and the projects with all my partners that we will be thinking of together with our students.
Can I ask you here? Sorry, Alex. Go ahead. I mean, we are talking about, digital technology, and actually this is what I see in the Slido and the answers I get. But what about, I don't know, I'm thinking now, like the human aspect, the well-being of our students, of ourselves.
Yeah,
is
of course.
It all about digital technology?
No. No, and emphatically no. Natalia and I know she won't mind me saying this, but as much as we love digital tools, when we collaborate in our projects, we are also very mindful of social and emotional learning. I mean, that to me is the key. It's not just equipping our students with digital knowledge, but helping them become better people, and mindfulness and empathy and the social aspect is the most important when it comes to teaching and learning. As I said, the digital tools can just kind of help us along the way, but they are not the means to an end. It's much more important, I think, to every teacher that we focus on the social and emotional learning and well-being of our students.
And also, just to add here, as Anita very nicely said, all these tools and technologies, yes, they do offer a lot of opportunities, but as Anita mentioned, they need to be used very responsibly because there might be many risks and dangers. This also affects our well-being, Irini. Moving on, I would also like to hear from Maria Lorenza about the future of eTwinning projects, and then we can have a look on what the online audience thinks.
I definitely agree with my colleagues because technology is not the most important thing, but the use of technology for our aims. And the critical thinking is very important, as for me, the collaboration between students, because what do they want? They want to meet their other students and have fun together, mainly. So technology can help to collaborate, and the introduction of this new technology, for example, the metaverse, with the creation of the immersive way of learning can help them to have a strict contact if we can guide them to use in an appropriate way this technology, to understand that they are only a means, not the aim for education.
Immersive environment is a very popular answer on the Slido. I see also Maria Lorenza. And I think eTwinning is the ideal place to test this, bringing classrooms together, bringing schools and different countries online. I think it is very interesting. Thank you very much, Maria Lorenza. Let's have a look, Irini, on what the online audience thinks. It's true that we have received many, many answers. AI and immersive environments, I think, are the most popular ones. But let's have a look.
I think the eTwinning projects in general are the future of education. I think I will keep that. I really like it. That is the future. But
the code.
So key
yes,
competencies in learning, using technology, sharing experience, project-based learning, which can sound that it's a bit like not old-fashioned, but I really think that eTwinners, we are thinking that everybody in education knows what is project-based learning and how to work on a project-based. But I think that it's not really the reality, and it's something that
also regarding the topics of eTwinning projects, we have here someone mentioning very nicely about sustainability and environmental projects. As environmental concerns grow, eTwinning projects focusing on sustainability and climate change are expected to be more prevalent. Vertical and horizontal learning is a very interesting approach as well, to encourage our students to teach others, so as peers or mentors. Social emotional learning is also very popular, as we have seen. Gamification, artificial intelligence, and the key competencies, as Anita mentioned before. Irini, would you like to have another look?
I think we are covered, and you all have the link and you can see what is written there, but like back to nature, which is also interesting. So it's not only about technology and social innovation in schools, create spaces to collect pupil suggestions on how to improve schools, giving more weight to pupils' expression and ideas, and better integrating their priorities and needs, which I think that we can see in the projects you run and you got the prize. Yeah, I think it's quite interesting.
Let's keep the answers coming, because I see many participants are typing, and we can come back for the closing.
So I would like now to share, I mean, you are the experts. You are the experts. You have run, I suppose, several projects. You got a European Prize on Innovation and Education. And we have lots of teachers, lots of eTwinners that they are here with us in this discussion. What would be a message, I don't know, a piece of wisdom, a tip that you could share with them so they can, be inspired, be motivated? Okay, if they did it, yes, I can do it too. So how can you help them to embrace innovation, to say, yeah, I can do a step forward, even if it doesn't work, but I will be brave enough to do something in a different way? What would you tell them, Leticia?
Okay, they can start step by step, as you said. I remember that I started developing eTwinning project since 2013. And I started with easy projects, but the relation with the other European teachers opened my mind, and the thing or the fact that I saw my students increasing their knowledge and their motivation will help me to continue working and learning year by year. So I think that we need to start step by step and continue growing and learning new methodologies with other European teachers.
Thank you. Tatiana.
Well,
Go from the early ages to the quite older.
Yeah, well, I'm already retired, so I won't make any eTwinning projects. But after, I don't know, 15 years of eTwinning, I can say that involving teachers from the school, from all the teachers, from younger to the older one, on vertical, it's a future of education, a future of this thinking. School teams are very important for the schools, and I think that this collaboration between partners, eTwinning partners, find new partners or combining old and new partners in eTwinning projects is really nice. Involving young teachers to the teams that are already have is really important. And I think that as Irene said, the project work is not so much used in our schools, still not. But for me, is really important that they can collaborate, that they can make in different kind of teams, as up and down in vertical or in different countries. It's really future of this education, and of course peer learning and using ICT tools is just a tool that we have to have in mind. We have to use them with really reasonable and that time when we have to use them. But I think that the beautiful thing of eTwinning projects is that they can rise in Erasmus projects, and those teachers who are connected face to face, can see face to face, are much more involved to work to each other, and it's really one of the things that should not let miss it. These workshops, on-site workshops, are really important for the future.
Thank you, Tatiana. Maria Lorenza.
Well, I agree with her perfectly. She is right. I can add a word, brainstorming, for example, is a good thing. I'm working with my colleagues, and the first thing that we do is brainstorming. We put all together our ideas, and we make sure, and gradually the project has life, and it is a nice thing because each of us can share the ideas, and we have a concordia in diversitate, we can say, and this is an important thing because eTwinning gives us the opportunity to unify even if we have a different experience.
Yeah, all together, we all have to bring something. Anita, your tip, your advice?
Well, a famous quote that I use with colleagues and students alike is one from Henry Ford, and he said, "Whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right." So the mind is a powerful tool, and it's so important to embrace a positive mindset. And facing challenges should always be used as an opportunity to grow and learn. The eTwinning community is such a unique one because, you know, it's filled with teachers, and teachers are the most supportive, understanding people that I know. And when I think about innovation in today's classroom, it's about preparing our students for a future where they have to, you know, they're demanded to be adaptable, they have to be critical thinking, people, creative. And it's important, and each and every one of us can do this, empower our students to embrace the future with confidence. So be brave, have patience and empathy, have an open mind, and most importantly, have an open heart.
That was really nice, Anita. Natalia, last but not least.
I don't think I can say anything different from what my fellow eTwinning prize winners have already said. We should all stress the human aspect of our projects. So, and when we talk about the human aspect, it's our students. Of course, we should pass the floor to our students. We should give them the choice to do what they like, to make suggestions. If they want to learn the chemical elements through singing a song, that would be great. If they want to learn the simple pass through acting out a short theatrical play or something really, you know, without any preparation, that would be great too. So student agency is great because it actually, it beats boredom in class. And for us teachers, my advice would be that we need to be a bit selfish. Just a bit, just to, we need to do things in class that make class interesting for us too. We need to enjoy teaching, to have fun in class. And also we need to get to know the rest of the people in our school organization. We need to get to know, to have a complete view of the human resources in our school. Talking and communicating with each other is very important because the school is a living and hopefully breathing organization, and we need to be able to work with our colleagues at school in order to do to be able to work effectively with our eTwinning partners. And last but not least, I think that we need to dare to be bold, not bold, to be bold. That is to do to think out of the box, do new things, experiment, and we needn't be afraid of the head teacher because he or she would have objections. Maybe we need to talk them into it, or we shouldn't worry about the parents because the parents really like it when we do experiment and try out new stuff for the sake of their children. That was for me.
Thank you very much. Now, I think that all five of you described how an eTwinner actually is, how an eTwinning school is actually is. And I think all the people who know eTwinning and they have kids, I can tell about myself, I'm looking for a school that there is at least one eTwinning teacher and my daughter can have an eTwinning project at some time in her life. So I
think very interesting discussion, very important topics and points. What I personally keep from this last question, Irene, is to listen to our students, as you already said, and as Cornelia Lohinova in our video from Bratislava very nicely mentioned. We need to listen to our students and be lazy teachers. Let our students do the work, be active learners. So yeah, and ICT is just a tool. So if we have the passion and the energy to create projects, even with small steps at a time, as Leticia said, teachers can do indeed make miracles. So I think it's time to bring this discussion to an end. Irini, it's time to thank our panelists, our guests. Thank you, Natalia, Anita, Maria Lorenza, Tatiana, and Leticia for being here with us tonight, for sharing your experience with us very, very nicely. Thank you. And we would be very glad to meet you in Seville in a couple of weeks, some of you, for our next on-site event. Thank you and have a good evening.
Thank you all. Thank you from my side. We hope you enjoyed. I think it was a very, very interesting discussion. I think, as always, the discussion with eTwinners. I would like to remind to all the teachers who are registered for the conference that we will continue tomorrow. So tomorrow you can enter in the networking space and in the virtual exhibition hall. And it's a really nice opportunity. It's an online conference, but you still, technology helps on that, you have the opportunity to meet other colleagues across Europe and beyond. So you can continue with the networking activity, and then we have our workshops, a panel discussion with the supportive partners of eTwinning. And I think the first day of the eTwinning Annual Conference 2023 is coming to the end. We hope you had an enjoyable and some inspiration for innovation. And we wish you a good evening. Bye-bye.
Thank you all. Have a good evening.